Hi, welcome to another video. My name is Adrian, and today I want to talk about how to practice anatomy. So first off, I hope you have had an amazing 2023 so far. It has been a blast, and I am so excited to be back with you and sharing more of what I know about drawing, and hopefully it can be impactful and help you on your creative journey. So today I want to get right into it and discuss three major points that I think will be helpful with this topic. One being how to find the forms, right? So, and again, if you've seen my proportions video, I talk about forms in that video, and how to how those forms help define the body. So that same understanding is applied to when you are learning anatomy, because once you can define and find the major forms of the body, you're just layering the muscles and your understanding of the muscles on top of that. So the first step is to find the forms, right? So the second step I want to talk about is learning the major muscles. And we'll get into that in a little bit. And the third and final thing I want to go over in this video is stylization, stylized anatomy versus stylized realism. Those are the three topics I want to get into. And again, if you are ready, grab a pencil, iPad, whatever. You can sketch along with me. I have an image on the screen here. You can study it as we sketch, or just listen. But so let's get right into it. So when you are starting, one of the things I enjoy or helps me a lot is finding the forms. So what you see here is I'm defining the forms of the chest, the arms, which are mostly cylinders, the deltoids are mostly spheres. Finding those forms first help you, again, to establish the proportions of the figure you're studying. It helps you to create a underlying sketch to work from versus drawing anatomy right off, right from the beginning. And then you risk your proportions being off and things being out of place. So you always want to start with a loose sketch to kind of help you lay the foundation of what you're going to draw on top of, right? So again, that's the whole point of why you see Photoshop and Clip Studio and all these softwares have layers. Use those layers to your advantage. So once you have those, again, forms, if you look at the image here drawn on top, look at so much of what you're going to be doing as you learn anatomy is learning to see. And just in your drawing journey in general is learning to see. So when you have reference, again, I like to start with reference. Once you have this nailed down, again, you don't have to use reference, but it's a good starting point as a beginner. But look at the images that you find and try and see what muscles are there, what forms make up those muscles. And like, do you need a sphere? Do you need a cylinder? Is it a cube or a rectangle? Or let's just say cube. What forms help define or represent the muscle groups you're trying to draw, right? But again, looking at the images and breaking down what you see, draw over them, like the deltoids, the abdomen, the arm muscles. What are you looking at? What are you seeing? Because once you can learn to see it, then you can duplicate it. Then you can redraw it. So take your time to, again, find the forms first. And while you're looking at your reference and finding those forms, take time to draw over it so that you understand the next step we're about to get into, which is learning the major muscles. So again, once you defined the major forms, then you want to begin to study the major muscles, because once you know what they are, your chest muscles, your deltoids, which is your shoulders, your biceps, triceps, your forearm muscles, your thigh muscle, the two major thigh muscles that you see, which is that inner and the outer muscles, your calf muscles. Like when you're looking at these images, really study those, what they look like, what the shapes are. Like that inner thigh muscle is mostly a teardrop or a raindrop. If you know that, you can simplify that, then you can translate it into your own drawing, right? So don't be afraid to draw over your reference photos so that you understand what you're looking at. Because once you understand, it's easier to translate it into your own work, right? So, again, start simple, start very simple. Like you're not trying to try not to impress anybody, right? Just start loose. The whole goal is to understand, because once you understand, then you can begin to take that knowledge, take that information and apply it to your own work, right? So the last thing I want to get into, and I'm going to spend a good chunk of time on, is, again, stylization. Is once you learn the major muscles, because you, again, deltoids, chest muscles, you can get into the abs, but everybody, keep in mind that everybody's abs or six packs don't look alike. So look at different images of potential, like what again, every guy, especially males, their abdomen looks different. So maybe start with one type of ab muscle and study that group and then go from there. But again, just to get off that topic, but study what these forms are, because then you can decide if you want to simplify them. What I'm doing right here is taking the knowledge that I have about the muscles and I'm just simplifying it. There's no need to go into super detail on the biceps and the triceps and the abdomen and all that, because if my style is more simplified, I don't need to do all that, right? So if your style is more simplified, knowing the anatomy helps you to depict your characters in a realistic way, or more human-like. And again, you can even use the same information when you draw creatures. That's a whole nother video, another topic. But again, knowing this information and taking time to study the muscle groups, you can use that information and use it however you like. And so in this example, I'm using the information that I acquired by studying the image, and now I'm simplifying it by drawing another male figure with simplified anatomy, right? Again, not focusing on super detailed. Even you can see that I didn't draw the teardrop and the thigh muscles. Not necessary for this particular style, the simplified style. But all the major muscle groups are there. You see the deltoids, the abdomen, the chest muscles. All the information is there, and it looks like what it's supposed to look like, right? But again, taking that same information and then applying it to maybe a more, I guess you could say, more stylized, realistic anatomy. Again, not super realistic, but like still stylized. But with that, again, with that information, I can now draw my figure with the same anatomy from the same image, but now add more details. And we'll see that here in a second. But again, starting super loose. Again, you want to just find your form, find your poses, find your major shapes. And then once you find your major shapes, again, you keep layering on top of that. Keep in mind that be patient with yourself, right? Like learning anything new takes time. So give yourself a little grace to pick up this information and get comfortable with it. And especially as a beginner, study from images, study from as many images. I usually use Pinterest to find a lot of my images, and just take your time studying the muscle groups, make sure your proportions are correct. And I would start with more humanoid proportions, and then so in one session, if you draw one proportion similar to the image, try elongating the limbs, or whatever your style is and what you are interested in drawing. Try and take what you just learned and draw something different using the same image, but give yourself grace and patience to practice and understand. Don't be too critical of yourself and what you're drawing. Just really strive to understand what you're looking at, because so much of your creative journey will be learning to see the world around you and translate that, digest it, and then put it on the page. And that's where your unique voice comes in. It's because you've digested information and then you've put it on the page, right? So keep in mind that this stuff takes time, but if you keep practicing and you keep at it, you will get there. You will surprise yourself of how far you can go, the more you study these images and be patient with yourself. But yeah, so here again, I'm using the same information, and I messed around with the proportions in this drawing. It's no longer a 1-to-1 height wise or muscle mass wise to the reference image. Now, again, I'm just taking what I learned and applying it, trying to. I was thinking more of a Akuma and like some muscle, you know, the Hulk kind of figure. And so that's kind of what was the inspiration in my mind as I'm drawing from this reference with this particular drawing. I wanted to kind of like beef this guy up to, enlarge the muscle groups. And again, it's that simple when you know what an arm looks like, what muscles make up the arm. Then you can make the conscious decision of, okay, is this a Hulk bulky figure or is this a more slender figure? Because then it's a matter of not beefing the muscles up as much, right? It's just, okay, well, it's going to be more of a straight, like lean character versus a more muscular character. Now the arm, both figures have the same muscles. They have the same deltoids, biceps, triceps, all of that. But now you have the ability to make a choice of, okay, this is a slender figure versus a more muscular versus a more possibly pudgier character. You can make those decisions once you know what makes up the arms and the legs and the chest muscles and all of that. But in this sketch here, again, I wanted him to be more beefy, so that's kind of what I'm doing here. But again, one thing I want to encourage you all, especially in the beginning of your journey, is don't really strive to nail everything, like make a perfect drawing. Like explore, and I'll make in my part 2. I think I want to do a little bit of that just to kind of give more of an example of what I mean by explore the individual limbs, right? Like isolate the arm and study the arm group. Isolate the leg muscles and just draw the leg. Isolate the pelvis by itself and draw the legs coming from the pelvis. Like forget the upper body, but understanding how the legs connect to the pelvis. Just really break it apart and try to understand one thing at a time. If studying it all at once is too much, then try doing one thing at a time and then put it all together. But just, again, get comfortable with how you learn and what's going to be more effective for you. But again, when I was learning, it was helpful to draw the whole figure, get used to drawing proportions, getting used to drawing forms, and then getting used to layering the muscles on top of those forms. And then once I got an understanding that way, then I began to break it apart, draw the arms, legs, so on and so forth. I even studied the head separately because learning to draw the head and hands and feet, those are completely separate studies. Because there's so many different faces that you can draw. So I didn't even really go into that here. I just drew a face on the figure. But again, that's a whole nother separate video because there's so many, the face emotes emotion. So that's a whole nother topic, right? But yeah, I would just encourage just figure out what's more helpful for you as an individual, whether it's learning the whole figure first, or getting some kind of understanding of the individual pieces and then putting it all together. But yeah, figure out what works for you and study that way. But here, yeah, I decided to ink the drawing, again, just to make it more final of the study. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them and possibly show them in another video. I know I've had some other questions. I'm gonna try my best to insert them in some of the videos that are coming up. So don't think I forgot about you. I'm going to insert them at some point. So be on the lookout for that. If you haven't done so already, like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post next. But like always, stay tuned and keep drawing.